Women are everywhere. We're letting them play golf and tennis now. It's out of control.
You know what?
You know.
Welcome to Watch Mojo. And today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 worst things that Fox News has done.
If there's every election that doesn't need a recount, it is this one.
For this list, we'll be looking at the most consequential moves made by the conservative news network, on screen and off. Beyond biased or simply miscalculated, these lapses in journalistic integrity are considered uniquely harmful. What Fox News moments do you find particularly controversial? Give us your take in the comments. Number 10. Bill Salmon's emails. It's no secret that Fox News is recklessly dedicated to subversive agenda setting. The public were still stunned when watchdog group Media Matters for America gave them a peek behind the scenes in 2010.
If you call it a public option, the American people are split. If you call it the government option, the public is overwhelmingly against it.
They published a leaked memo email from Fox Vice President Bill Salmon, who suggested rephrasing public option healthcare to the more sinister-sounding government option. This was the first in a series of emails that advised reporters to avoid discussing climate change, paint Barack Obama as a socialist during his presidential run, and more. Never mind a leaked conversation in which Salmon admitted to finding these angles far-fetched himself.
Bill Salmon, Fox's vice president and Washington managing editor, issued a memo telling the troops, let's not slip back into calling it the public option.
His memos point to Fox's fine line between brand protection and meddling with the public or government. Number 9. Trayvon Martin's hoodie. The tragic death of Trayvon Martin sparked one of the most heated contemporary debates about race in America. Most media outlets considered unjustifiable prejudice behind George Zimmerman's actions. Fox News, however, emphasized his self-defense claim and backlash from gun control activists. Geraldo Rivera of Fox and Friends finally called attention to Martin, or rather, the teen's hoodie.
But I am urging the parents of Black and Latino youngsters particularly to not let their children go out wearing hoodies.
Rivera condemned Zimmerman and maintained rationality in Black and Latino parents regulating their children's wardrobe.
I think the hoodie is as much responsible for Trayvon Martin's death as George Zimmerman was.
What do you mean?
Still, critics felt like he was blaming the victim and belittling race as the main factor in fatal prejudice. As Fox and public discourse circulated Rivera's arguments, the hoodie became a symbol of anti-racism protests.
Just because someone wears a hoodie does not make them a hoodlum.
Rivera has since apologized to Martin's parents for his tasteless comments, but he can't take back their impact. Number 8. Doctored photos. Fox News' history with altered photos is not just unsettling, but bizarre. They were first caught in 2008 when Fox and Friends addressed a New York Times piece that criticized their network. Photos of the reporters were drastically doctored to disfigure their appearances.
So he essentially is his attack dog, his poodle, if you will.
Nobody on the show explained the likely satirical fabrication. In a similar incident in 2022, Judge Bruce Reinhart was digitally inserted in place of sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. But perhaps the most dangerous alterations ran in 2020, depicting violent imagery and high-powered weaponry within protest demonstrations in Seattle. Fox quickly removed the fake images, vaguely claiming they were errors. It's bad enough to use manipulated material to defame public figures, but letting it misrepresent sensitive issues represents the most serious of journalistic crimes. Number 7. Feminists in the military. There's no doubt that Fox News has shown more sympathy to the armed forces than feminist issues. When both subjects collided in a 2012 report on a spike in sexual assault in the U.S. military, pundit Liz Trotta took the rhetoric to a new low. Her correlation of these statistics with an increase in female military personnel was sadly astute. But Trotta callously accused feminists of hypocritical self-victimization and political meddling.
We have women once more, the feminists, wanting to be warriors and victims at the same time.
When host Eric Shawn asserted the value of the Defense Department's victim services, Trotta said that the military should be more concerned with defending the country than personnel. Public outrage ensued, but Trotta simply doubled down on her comments.
Prosecutions. I thought the mission of the Army and the Navy and Forest Services was to defend and protect us.
Number 6. Bill O'Reilly versus Jeremy Glick. Not all Americans demanded revenge after the transformative tragedy of 9/11.
We were surprised to find out that an American who lost his father in the World Trade Center attack had signed an anti-war advertisement that accused the USA itself of terrorism.
Jeremy Glick, whose father died in the attacks, notably participated in condemning the controversial War on Terror. When Bill O'Reilly invited him to the O'Reilly Factor to explain himself, Glick instead explained things the way Fox News wouldn't.
Our current president now inherited a legacy from his father and inherited a political legacy that's responsible for training militarily, economically, and situating geopolitically the parties involved in the alleged assassination and murder of my father.
He defended the Afghan people who had nothing to do with the attacks, while condemning O'Reilly for his bias and use of 9/11 to excuse atrocities.
You evoke sympathy with the 9/11 families.
That's a bunch of crap.
So
I've done more for the 9/11
families.
families, by their own admission. I've done more for them than you will ever hope to do.
Okay.
So you keep your mouth shut.
By the time he brought up Al-Qaeda's roots in CIA training, the interview was cut off. It was one of Bill O'Reilly's worst moments on the network. And that's saying something.
You were against it.
Why would I want to brutalize and further punish the people in Afghanistan?
Who killed your father?
The people in Afghanistan didn't kill my father.
Sure they did.
Number 5. Explaining Sandy Hook. After almost 30 deaths at Sandy Hook Elementary School, gun control became one of the defining issues in an era of American politics. Even Rupert Murdoch, chairman of Fox News' parent company, advocated for banning automatic weapons. As for his network, producers were allegedly instructed to downplay this debate. Instead, shows blamed violent video games, suggested arming faculty, and more.
He would come over and he'd be playing so long these video games, these shooting games, we'd have to give him dinner, we'd feed him.
Most infamously, Mike Huckabee claimed that the real debate was over the lack of religion in public schools. He received backlash for immediately attributing mass shootings to American culture's secularization.
We've systematically removed God from our schools. Should we be so surprised that schools would become a place of carnage?
It's hard to argue against moral decline as a factor in the rising violence since Sandy Hook. Of course, Fox, often strangely contrarian coverage of the issue, offers no real help. Number 4. Culture of harassment.
Women are everywhere. We're letting them play golf and tennis now. It's out of control.
You know what?
The Me Too movement was partly ignited by bombshells about Fox News' office politics. The network has long faced accusations of female objectification and discriminatory practices.
You read the headlines since men are so great. Go ahead, take them away.
Finally.
Take them away.
Okay.
But in 2016, the depths of harassment were exposed after personality Gretchen Carlson filed a complaint against network CEO Roger Ailes. He resigned after 6 more women came forward.
Boy, I hope I've helped other women.
Over the following year, multiple lawsuits revealed a culture of harassment that executives had been covering up as far back as 2002. It was so bad that the network was ultimately fined for violating New York City human rights laws, years after Bill O'Reilly and other major figures departed over allegations. With misogynistic behavior reportedly factoring into Tucker Carlson's termination in 2023, Fox still has a long way to go. Number 3. The 2020 election aftermath. Throughout Donald Trump's presidency, Fox News was his lead mainstream media advocate. Even after Joe Biden's election, many at the network humored Trump's assertions that his loss was illegitimate. Hosts and pundits mainly went after 2 voting machine manufacturers who were baselessly accused of rigging the election.
We don't know how many votes were stolen on Tuesday night. We don't know anything about the software that many say was rigged. We don't know.
Lou Dobbs Tonight even suggested that Venezuelan businessman Mahid Khalil was involved in the conspiracy. The 3 slandered parties filed suit against Fox News, with Dominion Voting Systems' especially high-profile legal battle ending in an almost $800 million settlement. This dealt a uniquely devastating blow to the network's credibility, especially with evidence that hosts who promoted the Stop the Steal movement privately laughed off Trump's claims. Number 2. COVID-19 disinformation. Audiences around the world relied on news outlets to guide them through the COVID-19 pandemic.
And we begin this Sunday morning with America's national security and the threat of communist China.
Fox News too often betrayed their audience's trust. The initial narrative was that the health crisis was exaggerated and politically weaponized by left-leaning media. When credible medical opinions could no longer support that claim, the network peddled pseudoscience, mask and vaccine misinformation, and conspiracy theories, despite the fact that later on the network itself had vaccine mandates.
And what about the efficacy of the vaccine itself among adults?
Why does it matter how many COVID cases we have in this country?
There are a lot of those people giving you medical advice on television, and you should ignore them.
Tucker Carlson tonight also attributed the spread of coronavirus to a woke reluctance to scrutinize China and migrants. It's worth noting that this network had the ear of the president. Some of Trump's most reckless statements and policies during the pandemic seemed eerily similar to Fox rhetoric.
Why do you keep using this? A
Because
lot of
it
people
comes
say
from
it's
China.
racist.
It's not racist at all. No, not at all. It comes from China.
Besides direct consequences, such rhetoric marked the height of Fox choosing contrarianism over public safety.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Number 1. Play to prejudices. Founded with the motto fair and balanced, Fox News has a long history of promoting racial stereotypes, xenophobic policies, and regressive gender and sexuality roles.
And Greg, there's no
laughing at anything a guy can do, a woman can do.
They have also openly accused the pejorative left of pushing myths about injustice and prejudice as a major public issue.
I had said from the jump, if you okay gay marriage, then you have to do plural marriage.
There are solid theories that this rhetoric is a brand that has become too lucrative to walk back. Still, there are many reports of workplace discrimination and disturbing ideologies among network personalities. Either way, multiple studies have correlated overconsumption of Fox News with decreased political and social awareness.
We keep marrying other species and other ethnics.
One of the few explicitly conservative news networks on American television, Fox is widely considered reckless in profiting off of a target audience that has no genuine interest in fair and balanced.
You would let everybody get married who want to get married. You want to marry a turtle, you can.
It's very simple. You're a nasty person, I'll tell you.
Welcome to Watch Mojo. And today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 worst things that CNN has done.
So sit back and enjoy.
For this list, we'll be looking at the most scandalous snafus and reckless journalistic errors made by one of America's most influential news outlets. What's your take on CNN's most consequential moves and mistakes? Report it in the comments. Number 10. Lou Dobbs and birtherism.
Up next, the left-wing liberal media blasting me again because I want the president to live up to his promise of transparency on his birth certificate.
The outrageous conspiracy theory that Barack Obama is not a natural-born American has circulated since his first campaign for the White House. CNN was one of many reputable news outlets to dismiss the story. The talk show Lou Dobbs Tonight, however, went rogue. The host was one of the first promoters of birtherism and maintained cherry-picked or blatantly inaccurate coverage. Lou Dobbs was long considered an extreme contrast to his network's left-leaning base.
My issue is this, okay? When this can be dispelled so quickly and simply by producing it, why not do it?
But as controversy surrounding the birther movement escalated, he resigned from the network in 2009, with 2 years left on his contract. Dobbs soon found a more politically congruent home on Fox News, but it was because of him that CNN, of all platforms, helped give birth to the birther movement.
It's been my great honor to work with each and every person at this wonderful network. I will be eternally grateful to CNN, to Ted Turner, and to all of my colleagues and friends, and of course to you at home. I thank you, and may God bless you.
Number 9. Republican Town Hall with Donald Trump.
Please welcome the frontrunner for the Republican nomination, former President Donald Trump.
CNN and Donald Trump have notoriously been embattled throughout the ex-president's political career. When CNN's Caitlin Collins sat down with Trump in New Hampshire to discuss his re-election bid for 2024, it wasn't in the spirit of a friendly debate. Throughout the open forum, interviewer and interviewee clashed over the latter's divisive policies, comments, and conspiracy theories.
I was just saying there's no evidence of that election fraud. You did once tweet.
You're supposed to say that, but I'm glad you say that. But look,
That's
that was
the
a
truth, Mr.
horrible
President.
election.
Unfortunately, Republican town hall backfired. There was enough uproar over the special airing the day after Trump was found liable for abusing E. Jean Carroll. Many critics also found it a desperate ploy for ratings and a reckless platform for the controversial candidate.
Authority, Mr. President, but I want to
why
move
did
on.
they change the law then, saying that you can't do it?
They didn't change the law. They strengthened the law because they were worried about
Oh, they
presidents
strengthened it,
exploiting.
meaning you could do it.
CNN naturally joined the condemnation of Trump's comments, but the network's seemingly exploitative and futile standoff was widely panned as a gross miscalculation.
You once said that using the debt ceiling as a negotiating wedge just could not happen. You said that when you were in the
That's
Oval
when
Office.
I was president.
So why is it different now that you're out of office?
Because now I'm not president.
Number 8. Inspired the fake news craze.
I told you, CNN is fake news. Don't talk to me. Go ahead, please.
News that deliberately misinforms has been around as long as news itself. There's an important distinction between media bias and fabrication that has faded in discourse on American journalism. As CNN escalated negative coverage of President Donald Trump, they leaned on possible conspiracies between his 2016 campaign and Russian agents. The network's particular interest in the Steele dossier, dismissed by many outlets as unsubstantiated, undermined their credibility. Worse, it was early fodder for Trump publicly dismissing bad press as fake news.
CNN's fake news. I don't take
sir,
questions. I don't take questions from CNN.
The political right wing has since popularized the age-old term to conflate critical mainstream media with disinformation. There are, of course, many conclusive points of criticism for Trump, but CNN's efforts to keep conspiracy theories in the public consciousness helped popularize a dangerous pejorative.
Fake news. CNN. Fake.
Number 7. Something else. Tensions were running high during news coverage of the 2020 U.S. presidential election, but CNN received additional heat when they presented an exit poll that broke down voter demographics. The race categories included white, Latino, black, Asian, and something else. It's fair to assume that the bulk of this miscellaneous label was Native American. While the American people are far too diverse to easily categorize, the bizarrely dehumanizing label, something else, puts into perspective a problem with how data collection recognizes the country's prominent indigenous population. At least the incident inspired a slew of memorable internet memes. CNN quickly apologized for what they refer to as a poor choice of words, but they've never completely lived it down.
So when, CNN reported the something else graphic, it was ridiculous. How quickly social media reacted and Native Americans reacted. It was swift, it was fast.
Number 6. Jeff Zucker on the Boston attacks. All of America followed the aftermath of a domestic terror attack at the Boston Marathon in 2013. CNN endeavored to treat this matter with reverence, but faced scandal. It all started when John King misreported that a dark-skinned male had been arrested in connection with the attack. CNN Worldwide's new president, Jeff Zucker, then circulated a memo praising the staff's gracious retraction and prompt coverage for strengthening audience trust. This letter came across as trivialization of a national tragedy and a solemn reporting error. Many outlets accused Zucker of openly valuing the ratings boost and competition that came out of this sad period. This praise of and blow to journalistic integrity set the tone for controversies surrounding CNN's more sensationalistic content during Zucker's tenure. Number 5. Goons and Thugs. With the Summer Olympics in Beijing came public debate about relations between the United States and the People's Republic of China. When the subject came up on CNN's The Situation Room, commentator Jack Cafferty declared, "I think they're basically the same bunch of goons and thugs they've been for the last 50 years. This incendiary remark was widely condemned for stigmatizing the Chinese people and Chinese Americans. Cafferty later asserted that he was only criticizing the Chinese government, while CNN released an apology to any offended party. Nonetheless, a lawsuit and protests outside of CNN's Atlanta and San Francisco offices ensued. The network's president ultimately sent the Chinese ambassador to the U.S. a personal letter of apology to his countrymen, but not his government. Number 4. Carol Costello on Bristol Palin. There's no love lost between CNN and the family of Alaska governor turned media personality Sarah Palin. But newsroom host Carol Costello crossed a line in 2014. With Bristol Palin being known for drama outside of her mother's spotlight, Costello lightheartedly set up leaked audio of a police report in Anchorage. She laughed and said that she may have found the best minute and a half of audio she had ever come across.
You can thank me later.
Of course, many viewers found nothing funny about Bristol's frantically recounting being dragged across the ground by a man who was intimidating her sister. Amid public accusations of hostile bias, Costello issued a humble apology to the news outlet Politico. Sarah Palin then issued a response saying that her family received no such apology. Number 3. Coverage of the Gulf War.
The skies over Baghdad have been illuminated.
The Gulf War was a controversial episode in American foreign policy. Unprecedented media access and the dawn of the 24-hour news cycle promised truly nuanced coverage of the conflict. Instead, CNN largely stuck to the perspective of the U.S. military. Even human interest stories concentrated more on American servicemen than locals facing unimaginable upheaval.
I'd like to tell the American people how much we appreciate your support, your prayers, and your confidence during these last 7 months.
Viewers saw more action and coverage of violent anti-war protests in the States. By the end of the brief war, CNN and its groundbreaking format were a revolutionary success. Still, many accuse the network of propaganda and sensationalism. With this watershed moment in journalism sparking the CNN effect, wherein news media plays a key factor in policymaking, there's no overstating the consequences of CNN's breakout, importance, or dire.
The whole world was watching CNN. We were the only ones who had reporters in Baghdad.
Number 2. Misaligned sympathy. It's hard for a news outlet to find a unique angle in a major story. With the trial of 2 Ohio high school students accused of sexual assault, it was also hard for outlets to stay neutral. But no one expected that after the conviction, CNN's Poppy Harlow would lament the collapse of the defendants' promising futures.
And as these 2 young men that had such promising futures, star football players, very good students, literally watched as they believed their life fell apart.
While it's important to humanize even the worst people, Harlow's words suggested pity for people whose horrific crimes and cold attitudes are well documented. CNN was already under fire for accidentally revealing the victim's identity, which is protected in the case of a minor. Many say their misaligned sympathies exemplified contemporary debate about privilege and victim blaming. If nothing else, it revealed how cheap emotional news coverage can be.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Number 1. Valley of Death.
Death. This was the Valley of Death.
Since the Vietnam War, hardly any disturbing detail is shocking. But in 1998, the CNN Time magazine collaboration Newsstand premiered with a potentially explosive report. Valley of Death alleged that as part of Operation Tailwind, air support used sarin nerve gas on the Viet Cong. This would make the U.S. government liable for serious war crimes.
Just picture that. Turn on the television, and then they start talking about Operation Tailwind.
The Pentagon responded with their own investigation, while CNN was hit with multiple defamation suits. After it was concluded that Valley of Death's claims were unsubstantiated, the network retracted the story and fired its producers. One of them claimed that this retraction was the result of pressure from the CIA. Whatever the full extent of the Vietnam War's horrors, Valley of Death shows the dangers in unscrupulous journalism.
I didn't realize how vicious the people at CNN could be until I myself ended up being involved in this kind of stuff.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.